All right. Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
Great, Ron. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing great. I know we've been doing a lot on HIPAA lately, but today I'm really excited. We're going to move over to Marketplace and we're going to talk about Marketplace and really dive into the tips and tricks to growing a Marketplace. I know with our Clarity e-commerce platform, we do a lot of B2B, B2C, Marketplace, auction. We do it all, right? But Marketplace is kind of an interesting animal, and there's a lot of different intricacies and scenarios that really play into the marketplace, right? Buying groups and subscriptions and memberships and quoting. There's just so much to cover. Um, I'm going to actually turn it over to you and let you go ahead and start out and just kind of introduce us into the topic. And then, we can kind of just ping pong back and forth.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thanks. And very excited as well to get into this together today. One of the things that I think a lot of marketplaces take for granted, and you may or may not be in this case right now if you're operating a marketplace or own a marketplace, etc. But they don't take it full advantage of a niche that they can be the highest value provider in the world for that niche. Now, it may be specific to a region or several regions or a sort of subset within a niche that they can own. But one of the biggest general thought processes to have is where can I, relative to everyone else in the world, where can I provide the most value right away? And that should be a foundational thought process that's constantly going through your mind. Fundamentally, this is what is going to sort of filter through all of the different tactical execution is your actual value that you're providing to your end customer. And that's what's pretty incredible about marketplaces is, typically, even if you're going up against a, 10,000 pound or 500,000 pound or however many gorilla, you can beat them by delivering more value within a very focused area that you're delivering it into. The other thing that I would say here is that you can also benefit a lot from seeing what other marketplaces are doing that aren't in your same industry. And so this is also a really valid way to learn and not have to sort of pay for it directly. So you can be wise by learning something without having to experience it the hard way. So this is also really powerful. Now, Ron and I have put together a list for you of areas that are really specific tactical areas, and we're just going to kind of interweave this with some projects and examples of how they might utilize these opportunities within their space. One of the things that I would say is that different industries have different personas or different folks that are at different times of their life. They have a different way they want to be, that they want to interact with you and your information. And so we'll also want to make sure that you're thinking about that and adapting to that scenario. So anyway, just to dive right in, Ron, I think one of the biggest things is just overall just awareness of your marketplace within your niche. And, you can have multiple niches, but one of the most effective ways to market and conduct ongoing marketing is through really content marketing and value-based marketing, really similar to what we're doing here today. Letting people know how to sort of work within, let's say, for example, some of our clients that have marketplaces, they will sell items, for restaurants to purchase to set up their restaurant. And so they are one of the world's best at procuring, getting relationships, getting pricing, getting, all of the logistical shipping and et cetera done so that these items that are really high value to a restaurant and maybe really time sensitive can get shipped out timely and reliably. And so it would be really straightforward for this restaurant marketplace, restaurant equipment marketplace, if you will, to put a process in place to consistently update folks that would be interested in this, to focus on that particular niche with their marketing efforts. So this is typically going to include a myriad of different things, but generally what you want to do is sort of have this idea of creating a piece of content and then syndicating it across different mediums. So as much as you can with your marketing, you want to essentially make it match the flow of putting content on your site that you need for your site anyway. So an example of syndicating the content would be, here's a new product or product line that's really helpful. Maybe it's within a particular offering, like let's say, a cooking appliance. One of the manufacturers has a new cooking appliance or a new feature on that cooking appliance. And we're going to talk about that feature and compare the different manufacturers and the strengths and weaknesses of this feature on this cooking appliance. And we might do a video. We may actually show the products. We'll probably take pictures, make a table that does a comparison. And then we can essentially use this across different mediums. So we can use it in video format, email format. We can use it in different retargeting ads that we put out there. So when people go to our site, they'll see that we do these comparisons for them. So even if they don't purchase from us, they're going to be exposed to us as a brand. Setting up a structure for them to be able to go to the site and get all the detailed information, maybe more than they would get from anywhere else. And the list goes on. And, ultimately the idea here is that we're going into this space and we're seeing it as an opportunity to sort of meet the buyer, meet our site visitor where they're at, and deliver value to them really high in the funnel and medium in the funnel. And so, Ron, I'll turn it over to you if you want to sort of speak to that, maybe give some other examples of things that we've done. But those are just a few kind of starting thoughts there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And you went really deep there. I love that. One of the things that when I talk to clients and I help them with their marketing strategies, we're SEO certified and AI certified, and I work with a lot of clients after I sell the project. It goes to development, we design and build it, and then they come back to me, and then I help them with the SEO, CRO, the omni-channel syndication, as Chris was just alluding to. One of the biggest things that I see my clients struggle with is, Chris or us, we try to give them some consultation and talk about how they can pick that niche and own that niche. And they're like, I don't even know how to figure out what our niche is. And so one easy way for me to remember that and to help my brain spin and help clients is I joke around. My son likes D&D, right? So I joke around with D&D. And if you can think D&D, Chris and I could sit down, we could look at our company and go, okay, from a D&D perspective, how can we market? D, disruption, D, differentiation. So how does our product differentiate? Well, Chris just mentioned that new cooking device, and it's got this new device. If nobody else has that and it's really advantageous, great. That's a differentiation from the competitors. So it's really easy to articulate the differences rather than focus on the similarities, right? And then the other is the disruption. If that new feature on that device is going to change the way people cook, you think about a pressure cooker, right? Chris and I are going to make a big dinner with oxtail. I don't eat oxtail, or maybe I do, I don't know. But it would take 5 hours to slow cook, but I can put it in a pressure cooker because I see these cooking shows and I see them do it in 40 minutes, right? It changed the game. So if we came up with that cooking device and it was a pressure cooker, what are Chris and I going to focus on when we go market that? Well, forget about the slow cooker, forget about spending too much money on our crock pots. Everybody does that. They can go down to Walmart and get that, right? So let's focus on the differentiation and the disruption. We're going to be in the market that allows these restaurants now to cook, oxtail in 40 minutes, right? Game over at that point in time. So from a marketing perspective, I like to think about it in a D&D, right? It's like back in the olden days, I'm the old one on the call here. So back in the old days, we did the SWOT analysis, right? We would spend a day or two and go through everything and do the 4 quadrants and just spend hours upon hours and days trying to figure it out. But it's so much easier if you just do a quick D&D analysis to know where you can be successful. So one of the things, and I think we can move into the next topic here, and I'm going to have to lean heavily on you on this one because this one's more of a technical one, is hyperautomation, right? There are so many things that we as a consultant do for our clients, and the whole reason why we built our Clarity Connect platform, right? We have our e-commerce marketplace platform, But where the power really is not just in that UI. I mean, there's lots of e-commerce options out there, right? But the power is in our ability to not only customize that platform, but when we integrate it with the back office, with the PIMs, with the warehouse, with everything else, and we fully automate the business processes, that's where the magic is, right? So we're automating everything we can possibly get our hands on. So Chris had introduced this topic to me a while back, and it really intrigued me. So I really wanted him to dive in a little bit and share this concept of hyperautomation with you guys. So Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Ron. Great job setting that up. And I think fundamentally the idea is just as you stated, it's looking at these individual processes that effectively comprise a workflow or a life cycle of someone having some level of interest, sort of top of the funnel, to going into the purchasing process, purchasing. We have all of the fulfillment, the support, and any logistics around that, A to Z, soup to nuts, for this whole process. And, if you sort of go through and look at the frequency of the activities that are necessary to support the sort of higher volume transactions that are occurring and higher profit transactions that are occurring, as well as the customer related activities that they have to complete, and basically create essentially a big matrix of areas where we can reduce the friction, certainly on the customer side, and then improve the automation internally so that fulfilling and supporting these sales goes well. Well, there should be no boundaries for what we can and can't do. We can do anything. It's just a matter of, does it make sense for the business? And realistically, that's going to sort of become self-evident when we're analyzing from how often does this occur and how much are we sort of losing by making the customer go through all of these steps, for example. We don't want the customer to have to double entry anything anywhere. We don't want the customer to have to enter anything that's unnecessary. We want to manage the customer's expectations really clearly and keep them apprised throughout the process. Probably one of the most important things for automation is removing things from the customer's plate, turning things around faster, so reducing the latency, and keeping the customer apprised visually so they can see what the progress is, and what the expectations are. So that can all happen with hyperautomation, where you can constantly have this sort of exponential increase in profitability and customer sat with a linear increase of automated activities. So you automate a few more activities, you get an exponential increase in growth. And it's pretty crazy how that works, Ron. And, one of the things that I see for small and medium-sized businesses is they can take advantage of this hyperautomation now because a lot of the technology has become commoditized to do that. This used to be sort of an unfair advantage that large companies had, for decades. And they would invest millions and millions of dollars and sort of pay this massive capital overhead that a small and medium-sized company wouldn't traditionally be able to do. And then they would continue to monopolize. But by focusing on your niche and leveraging commoditized technology that can be customized to your business, well, you can have that same unfair advantage. But it's even more disproportionate if you're focusing on a few niche areas, because the large companies sort of at the limit don't care as much as you will about your niche. They just won't. They're not going to have the incentive and the infrastructure to be able to deliver value at the level that you will within your niche. So you'll always be able to win if you're leveraging the right tools, hyperautomation being one of those. The other thing that we see a lot, and Ron, I know that you've seen this so many times over the years, is that companies are sort of made or broken whenever they get to a certain scale and decide or execute at a certain level with automation internally. If you don't automate certain steps, if you don't make things into a process and you're really people dependent instead of process dependent, your system will not scale. It certainly will be more of a linear scaling as opposed to an exponential scaling capability. And so we're really here to help you automate your internal processes as well, by connecting systems and having them talk to each other. as well as helping you and your team go through a process of deciding, what should be a priority to be automated now, and then what doesn't make sense in the short term. And there's always a cost benefit analysis that has to happen here. But the end goal should be that the end customer gets a higher value and a higher standard of value more consistently through your automation, and that they have reduced friction to interact with your company to get that value from you. In a similar vein, your team, your internal team that's fulfilling things, they have a lower level of effort to deliver the same unit of value. And that lower level of effort sort of allows them and you to put more time into process improvement. So you're constantly reinvesting into processes as opposed to people internally. Obviously, you have to invest in your people, but the more that you get a extremely powerful process, that's going to be something that you can scale exponentially. So this equation has worked really well for many clients with marketplaces to help them to go from 8-figure businesses to multiple 9-figure businesses in a very short time period. And other scenarios where we've worked with startups that literally had no revenue and went to multiple 8-figure revenue literally within a couple of years by leveraging these tools. So it absolutely works. You have to have the other ingredients correct. You can't just have an incredible oven and cooking devices and then have the wrong ingredients and expect a great cake to come out. You have to have a great niche, a good team. But if you then add, Hyperautomation to, a great team and a great value you're bringing in the market, then it can be an exponential growth, which is really, really exciting. I think that's one of the things that really is the most compelling to really all of our team, is engaging and helping you to grow your business in an exponential fashion.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting you use the word ingredients and putting good ingredients in, because that really kind of leads to our next one, which is self-service, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your clients are putting crap in and dirty data and not updating their account and unable to go back and view their order history and their order status and reorder easily and engage with quotes and returns and RMAs and all the stuff that they do. I mean, remember, half of the equation is them coming to you. You've got everything on the back end, and we can hyper automate the heck out of that. But if there's garbage in, it's usually garbage out, right?
That's right.
So one of the really important tips and tricks for a marketplace is to enable this, what I call self-service, right? And so one of the things that we've done with our platform is we've hyper focused on enabling the user interface to help make it easier for people. I love to use the comment. I say, we try to make it easier for people to order and reorder from you than to even consider a competitor, right? So we have 8 different ways people can reorder from you or quickly order from you out of the box. So it's not just go to the catalog, but there's quick order, there's bulk import order. They can reorder from a past invoice. They could literally go look at an invoice that was paid from 7 months ago, open it up, see 27 line items in there. And if they wanted, individually order one item off that, or click one link and reorder everything, right? I mean, we've literally went through the entire UI and said anywhere that we can make it easier for them to get the information in self-service or reorder very quickly, we do it. And that's built in. So even if they went to an invoice 7 months ago, saw an item that they wanted and click reorder, it re-adds it back to the cart, which does a refresh and says, oh, let me go back and check the live stock count and what the price is now. So if the price has gone up, you're not going to get screwed because they reordered and gamed the system by reordering from a price that was 6 months old. Conversely, if it's on sale now, it will come up and show the sale price, or if it's out of stock now, or if there's more stock. So this self-service and consciously thinking about self-service. How do I let Chris, when he comes and orders from me, how do I make it easy for him to keep his email address updated, keep his phone number, keep his billing address, keep his payment method? How do I let him know when his credit card's going to expire, or if their account's on hold for non-payment? How do I proactively engage my clients and let them self-service to help improve customer satisfaction, which we've all seen increases to better revenue and less attrition, right? We don't want to lose clients. We all know the old cliche, it's much more expensive to attain a new client than it is to service an existing client, right?
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add on the self-service before we go into another really exciting deep tech topic?
Yeah, I would say, the self-service is probably one where managing expectations and setting expectations is just as important as the technical parts. And that's tough for me as a technical guy to admit that. But it's so valuable to have really clear visuals that are intuitive and really simple, clear messaging to, as someone goes through a process, make sure that they understand this is how we operate. This is what to expect. This is where you are in the process. This is how you deal with common scenarios. Just that alone, it's not easy. It is simple, but it's not easy. It's going to take a decent amount of time in most cases to get that in place and really execute well at that. But that is a first step for self-service. It's like the site in any interactions that they have via email, maybe text, intermodal type of communication. It ultimately needs to be such that they're getting this consistent message of where am I at in the process? How does the process work? And what do I do if there's an exception? And boy, that alone just makes such a difference for customers. And then also having sort of a safety relief valve that we're monitoring at all times to see, like, if too much of our flow of our customer experience management, if you will, and support is going through this safety release valve, then we need to do more automation and more, configuration to set expectations. With that said, then to me, from my experience working with clients, their whole team knows, like, if you talk to the customer support team and if you talk to customers, and usually there are always advocates that we can talk to and they'll be really honest, they're going to say what the issues are that need to be automated first. If you do these three things, it will be a game changer. Don't worry about anything else. And so I would just sort of reinforce around that, that these are typically the big opportunities are sort of staring you in the face. And then, continual automation and kind of getting into the weeds more would be sort of like bonus round, if you will.
Okay, so what we're going to do, this one's a big one. Chris and I will go through and we're going to probably record this in either 2 or 3 sessions. I'll determine when I go back and look at that how long they are as to whether we release it as a part 1, 2, or 3, or whether we want to just have an intermission, and you'll see us here in a few seconds and we'll have a close change and it'll be just intermission and we'll just continue the webinar. But anyway, if we don't see you and I decide to break it in parts, thanks for tuning in today. And that concludes part 1 of our tips and tricks to grow your marketplace. And we'll see you soon in the next webinar. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Bye
John.
for now.
Bye for now.